Karen's wail sliced through the quiet suburb like a cheap fire alarm, shrill and impossible to ignore. By the time I peeked through my blinds, she was already flopped on my lawn, clutching her shin like she'd been shot. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where the air smells of fresh-cut grass and the neighborhood hums with the soft clatter of dinner dishes. I'd just settled into my couch with a cold beer when the commotion started. HOA Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, had been prowling the street, her clipboard in hand, ready to slap fines on anyone whose hedges dared to grow a centimeter too tall. She was a walking caricature, 300 pounds of entitlement wrapped in a floral muumuu, her sneers so permanent it could have been carved in stone. Nobody liked her, but everybody feared her. She'd once fined Mrs. Lopez for unauthorized petunias and threatened to tow Mr. Jenkins' car for parking 2 inches over the line. Karen didn't just enforce rules, she wielded them like a sledgehammer. That evening, though, something was off. I saw her waddling toward my property, her eyes locked on my mailbox, which I'd painted blue last week without HOA approval. I braced for another lecture, but instead, she stopped dead in her tracks, glanced around, and then bam, hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. Her scream was Oscar-worthy, a piercing cry that brought neighbors spilling out of their homes. By the time I stepped onto my porch, she was rolling on my grass, moaning about her broken leg, and pointing a manicured finger at my uneven lawn. "This is your fault," she shrieked, her voice dripping with venom. "You're hazardous property. I'm suing." I froze. My lawn wasn't a golf course, sure, but it wasn't a minefield either. Something about her performance felt rehearsed, like she'd been waiting for an excuse to pounce. Then I noticed my neighbor, Jamal, across the street, holding up his phone, filming the whole debacle. Karen didn't see him, too busy hamming it up for her invisible audience. "I'll need an ambulance," she wailed, clutching her leg harder. "This is negligence." The neighbors gathered, murmuring. Mrs. Lopez whispered, "She's faking it. She did this to the Wilsons last year." Mr. Jenkins, still bitter about his car, snorted, "Bet she's after insurance money." I felt my stomach twist. Karen wasn't just causing a scene, she was setting a trap. If she pulled this off, my homeowner's insurance would take the hit, and she'd walk away with a fat check for her pain and suffering. I wasn't about to let her scam me. "Karen," I said, stepping closer, "you okay? What happened?" My voice was calm, but my mind was racing. She glared up at me, her face a mix of pain and triumph. "Your lawn tripped me. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen." She gestured wildly at a tiny dip in the grass, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. I raised an eyebrow. "You sure you didn't just fall?" Her eyes narrowed. "Don't you dare gaslight me," she snapped, loud enough for the whole block to hear. "I'm injured. I'm calling my lawyer." She fumbled for her phone, still sprawled dramatically, her muumuu fanning out like a parachute. The neighbors exchanged glances. Jamal, still filming, gave me a subtle nod, his phone steady. I felt a spark of hope. If Karen was lying, that footage could be my ticket out of this mess. The police arrived 10 minutes later, a single officer named Rodriguez who looked like he'd seen his share of HOA drama. Karen amped up her performance, tears streaming down her face as she recounted her near-death experience on my death trap of a lawn. Rodriguez scribbled notes, his expression neutral, but I caught him glancing at the perfectly ordinary grass with skepticism. "Ma'am," he said, "can you walk me through exactly what happened?" Karen launched into her tale, each word more embellished than the last. She claimed she'd been admiring the neighborhood's aesthetics when my negligently maintained property caused her to catastrophically injure herself. I bit my tongue to keep from laughing. Admiring aesthetics? Karen? The woman who'd once called my rose bushes tacky in an HOA newsletter? Rodriguez turned to me. "Your side?" he asked. I shrugged, keeping it simple. She was on my property, uninvited, and suddenly fell. "I don't know what happened, but my lawn's fine. Check the footage." I nodded toward Jamal, who was still recording, now from his porch. Karen's head whipped around, her face paling. "Footage?" she sputtered. "That's an invasion of privacy." Jamal stepped forward, unfazed. "Public property, Karen. You're on a front lawn, not a bathroom. He handed his phone to Rodriguez, who watched the video in silence. The crowd grew quiet, the air thick with anticipation. Karen's moans tapered off, replaced by a nervous fidgeting. She tried to sit up, then winced theatrically, as if remembering her role. Rodriguez's face stayed blank as he rewatched the clip. Then he turned to Karen. "Ma'am, the video shows you looking around, pausing, and then falling on purpose. No trip, no stumble, just a deliberate drop." The neighbors gasped. Mrs. Lopez muttered, "Told you." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's not true," she stammered. "The video's manipulated." Rodriguez wasn't buying it. "Ma'am, this is raw footage. You're welcome to explain it at the station, but this looks like attempted insurance fraud." He pulled out his notepad again, jotting something down. Karen's bravado crumbled. She scrambled to her feet, miraculously forgetting her broken leg, and started yelling about her rights. The neighbors didn't hold back now, their whispers turning to open laughter. Mr. Jenkins called out, "Guess the lawn's not so hazardous now, huh?" I watched, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over me. Karen had spent years terrorizing this neighborhood, wielding her HOA power like a dictator. She'd fined, threatened, and bullied anyone who dared defy her. And now, here she was, caught in her own web, her lies exposed on a shaky iPhone video. It wasn't just justice, it was poetic. Rodriguez escorted Karen to his cruiser, her protests growing fainter as the door shut. Jamal sent me the video, and I uploaded it to the neighborhood group chat, where it spread like wildfire. By morning, Karen's scam was the talk of the block. The HOA board, embarrassed by the scandal, voted her out unanimously the next week. Her fines were reversed, her clipboard confiscated, and her reign of terror ended. But the real victory wasn't just Karen's downfall. It was the way the neighborhood came together. Mrs. Lopez brought me homemade tamales the next day, saying, "We've all wanted to see her go down." Mr. Jenkins offered to repaint my mailbox, free of charge. Even shy old Mr. Patel, who never spoke at meetings, stopped by to thank me for standing up to her. For the first time in years, the street felt like a community, not a battleground. Karen moved away a month later. Her house sold to a young couple who planted wildflowers in their yard. HOA be damned. I kept the video, though, a reminder that even the loudest bullies can fall when the truth catches up. Sometimes, all it takes is a neighbor with a phone and a lawn that refuses to play along. The end.